Hi, I'm Skip Nipper. Welcome to my podcast, where I tell you about not only Nashville's great baseball history and traditions,
Shot to right, a one-hop liner,
but certainly about its past. And you will hear a little bit about its present and future, too.
Yes, he can. It makes the waist-high catch.
There are great stories about Tom Wilson Park, Herschel Greer Stadium, Sulphur Dell, and the players, coaches, and fans who love everything about baseball. And every once in a while, you will get to hear from a special guest who will share their fondness and even passion for the great game.
The high fly ball down the right field corner, going way back, hits a lead-off home run.
I think part of Nashville's unique charm in baseball is evident in its rich history of amateur leagues, some dating back to the 19th century. These leagues were not just about competition, but also about the whimsical, quote, for the championship of the city, unquote, challenges that added a special flavor to the game. I recall the City League and the Tri-State League when I was younger, which may have been semi-pro leagues at one point when many ball players, some who are still living, continued their baseball careers at places like Shelby and Centennial Parks, in Nolensville, at Morgan Park, Cleveland Park, and even Sulphur Dell and other notable sandlots. That was when there were several places to play that no longer exist, offering opportunities like they did in those days, and that's kind of a shame. But one of the great years for amateur baseball was 1928, a year that saw the continuation of older leagues and the formation of new ones in the amateur ranks, as 5 leagues were established and kept Sulphur Dell and all those other city ballparks busy. And I want to touch on each league and team. I can't go into the great detail about all the players, but the newspaper published a lot of the rosters about the teams that would be playing in the league. And some of those names and leagues may be recognizable to you from the past. Now, while we're talking about events nearly a century ago, it's worth noting that some of the sponsors are familiar business names in Nashville to this day. And their support back then, just as it is today, was a key part of the community's connection to the sport of baseball. After reports of leagues organizing in both the Nashville Banner and the Nashville Tennessean during January, February, March, and up to April 1, when on Sunday, April the 1st, 1928, the Nashville Banner especially published the summer schedule for all 5 leagues that had been formed, publishing that, quote, 22 teams to fight for flags in 5 leagues. The rosters of clubs forecast bitter struggle in every circuit, unquote. And the article written by sports writer Louis Little goes on to say, assuming the form of a steamroller, baseball's pennant grinds are gradually creeping upon us, and in another fortnight, the fans will have witnessed the official start of the 1928 campaign. And like the other teams of all rank throughout the country, Nashville's amateurs are towing the mark, eager to get the jump in the early games. And he goes on to say, the winds of time are carrying the season to a fast and colorful opening next Saturday, which would be April the 7th, when the 16 teams in the 4 local 4-team leagues get the touch of the hide-covered sphere under the official fire. And when the first call of play ball sounds, it will assume the proportions of a tornado, sweeping Nashville's baseball lots, and the answer will rebound with the force of a hurricane. That's a pretty eloquent description of preseason baseball. And he mentions in that article when he says 16 of the 4 local 4-team leagues, well, there was an additional 5th league that had 6 teams, and they started later than April the 7th. Louis Little makes it sound as if baseball had caught on like wildfire in Nashville, doesn't it? The organization overseeing the leagues, you always have to have somebody in charge, was the NABPA, presumably the forerunner of the Nashville Amateur Baseball Association, the NABA, which would be formed later, at least renamed later. And Charles Slim Embry headed up the organization during the absence of the previous season's commissioner, a man named Byrd Douglas, B-Y-R-D Douglas, who, the paper says, was currently coaching the baseball team at Princeton. And Embry was to ensure that a player would not drift from one team to another, as had previously been allowed, with governing rules to be as in organized baseball going forward. However, the teams had been making trades and deals in the offseason, and that kept fans reading the newspapers to stay up to date on who would be playing for their favorite team. Now, when I say 4 leagues of 4 teams each, in reality, 2 leagues were split in 2. The Industrial and the City League had an A League and a Double A League. And as I said earlier, the Volunteer League would have 6 teams. Now, presumably, there would be playoffs to be named Nashville Amateur Baseball Champions for the year of 1928. Victor Chemical was the 1927 City Champions team. Now, here's the rundown for each league and the participating teams. The Industrial League Class A included H.G. Hill Company, Life and Casualty Insurance Company, Nashville Gas and Heating Company, McWhorter Weaver Company. Now, I told you earlier you'd recognize some of those names, although they may have changed over the years. I think you understand what I'm talking about. And in the Industrial League Class 2A, AA League, Victor Chemical Company was one of the teams. They were the champions of the city the season before. The post office had a team, American National Bank, and German Shoe Company, more recognizable names. The City League Class A League had the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railroad team, also the Louisville and Nashville, the L&N Railroad team, King's Cowboys. Both of the words start with a K. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I can find out. And then there's Marshall and Bruce. And the City League Class AA League included DuPont, Tennessee Enamel Company, Harley Holt Furniture, Purina Mills. And in the Volunteer League, the 6-team league, there was Send It to the Laundry, that's the name of a laundry, Jacobs Packing Company, Newhoff Packing Company, Lamb and Collier, Model Cleaners, and Nashville Pure Milk Company. Now there you have it, just one of the years when Nashville baseball was, quote, in its heyday, unquote. And of course, there was a strong foundation of baseball before and after 1928. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Nashville Baseball History. I'll have more next time, and I hope you'll come back again. And as always, thanks for listening.